Good hello and welcome back to Wargaming. I don't get paid enough to do this whenever. Um, Tonight it's just myself and Cal as Zach is being a little sook. And Mitch has a class to teach, like a good citizen of this great sunburnt invaded country. But we won't talk about that on risk of Cal becoming a coconut again. Um, Tonight we have some fun stuff because just stuff like it was literally within, I think it was within 12 hours of last week's show. Squats got nerfed.
Squats got squatted.
Oh, poor Squats. I almost feel bad for them, except that I don't because I'm a terrible human being that just likes money. So yeah, squats. There's also a Metal Watch article that has come out. It's about Age of Sigmar, but it very likely applies to how they go about doing the same thing for 40k, except probably with a bit more data.
It says that it applies to 40k. It's the same reasoning behind it.
Yeah. I'd say 40. Actually, does 40k have more players than Sigmar?
Not at the moment.
Sigmar took ahead, didn't they?
No. AOS is currently the premier Games Workshop game.
Oh, just watch. Next thing, 40k gets squatted. Just entirely. That'll be fun.
They've decided that they were on a good thing with 7th, so that's why Horus is out and 40k is no longer.
Yeah, that seems fair. I mean, let's be honest, 8th and 9th edition 40k are hot garbage, according to people on the internet, and people on the internet are never wrong. This is a true fact.
To be fair, they're not that far off the mark.
Look, I thoroughly enjoy 9th edition. I enjoyed 8th edition, and being a game, isn't that all that matters? That you enjoy it?
Yeah, I don't mind 9th edition. I am starting to hate the mission packs for match play.
Yeah,
slightly different, but it's I would quite easily go to all open play all the time.
See, that's why for like the last, it was just after Nuckmund got released, and then Tempest came out. Picked up Tempest. We played I think we only played 3 missions out of Nuckmund before we just put it down and just played Tempest ever since.
Well, see, it's starting to become a thing. Like, this isn't just like our personal opinion. Like, I've started to notice that a lot of channels, like Play on Tabletop, for example, they're in season not 3, and all their battle reports are Tempest now. I haven't heard them commenting on that Neff sucks, but you're talking. Play on has a good mix of very, very seasoned competitive players, as well as actual meta players, and they've all gone to Tempest for their channel.
Oh, look, I think the big problem with like your mission packs like Nephilim and whatnot is that they just become so stale so quickly if you're playing lots of games. And if you're not playing lots of games, then it doesn't really seem worth the price tag.
Well, see, I was pro mission packs when they first announced that they were going to be coming out quarterly. I thought that's pretty cool. In saying that, I was basing this off of obviously the chapter approved stuff, thinking that the last few chapter approves are coming out 6 to 12 months, depending on the issue. That we're going to actually see some variants, and the only real variances that have come have been bad.
Yeah, and look,
like missions have stayed relatively the same, and they've just kind of.
I know I've played all of one mission of Nephilim, and I didn't enjoy it. I was just like, yeah, we're going back to Tempest. Tempest is so much fun.
So I'd go back to the last actual chapter approved that was released.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, that wouldn't bother me. And it's not the CP thing. I don't care about starting with 0 CP in F because I do stupid things anyway, and I would have found a way to spend them. It's just, I don't know. It's pretty stale.
Yeah, it's just, look, I think the reason that, we're playing Tempest and it's still going is because every game is not just different, but considerably different.
Yeah. Tempest, it's not one of those things that come down to, oh, my medalist, didn't get first turn, and it doesn't work if it doesn't get first turn, kind of thing. Or I've missed a couple of charges, or I've had a misplay. It's just, it's good. Like, you're swapping out those cards and getting cards that you don't pick is huge. It actually
having to actually build a balanced list that can do most things and actually looks like and functions like an army in a tabletop warfare simulator thing.
Just that one thing of being so opposite the meta of you build a list specifically for these 3 secondaries, and I don't know, it's refreshing.
Oh, look, I would love to see tournaments run Tempest.
So would I, but could you imagine the table flips just from drawing the bad cards?
Oh, I can imagine, and it's fantastic. There's very few things in this world that I enjoy more than triggering sweaty nerds.
Especially sweaty nerds at the pinnacle.
Yes, like making sweaty nerds pass out with rage is what I live for. Hence, I make statements like, Nephilim sucks. Squats are still overpowered, and I'm personally of the opinion they probably need to be toned down a little bit more. And Tempest is fantastic. 9th edition is fine. Is there anyone still watching that hasn't passed out with rage yet? But speaking of squats being nerfed,
Yes.
just after we finished last week, squats got nerfed, which is fantastic. And
It was needed.
Oh, the video that they put out, they thought out James' workshop early just to break the news. It was fantastic. Sadly, this announcement was not enough to stop the British economy from continuing to tank.
Yeah, well, that happens.
That does happen.
I don't think we can't blame James for that one.
Look, we can't blame him, but he didn't try hard enough to fix it. So yeah, that was exciting.
So yeah, in case you don't know what this what is, so obviously Leagues of Votann having the judgment token mechanic. You start racking up tokens. Your hit rolls, depending what they are and how many tokens, become auto wounds, and those wounds count as unmodified 6s. And a lot of stuff in that book triggers with an unmodified 6. So their nerf, their rule change of being a whole 6 days released,
could have been worse.
Was basically that auto wounds can never be treated as an unmodified 6. That was the nerf,
which I think is something that they should just apply generally across the entire game. Personally,
wait a minute, is that not in the core book?
Well, look, I don't like. I don't like it. I think it leads to too many broken things. I think forcing people to choose between mechanics that auto wound when they hit on a 6 and mechanics that mean that they do extra stuff when they wound on a 6, having to choose between those two adds a nice amount of variance and makes people have to actually think tactically about their decisions, as opposed to just stacking as many broken things on top of one another.
So here's the thing, though. Like, let's take Hail of Doom, for example. Now, Hail of Doom was incredibly strong and is one of those things that, the 6s to hit count as unmodified sixes to wound. And with shurikens, that means you're getting an extra AP out of it. That's not too bad. It's only triggering on solely a 6 roll. You can't stack those up or down. It's only that's really it.
Didn't you have a...
That's it.
That's
that's
you
all.
got the extra AP on a 6 to wound.
Yeah.
And you had another thing that made a
Well,
6 to hit count as
technically
a 6 to
2.
wound.
Yeah, so your 6 to hit with a shuriken weapon was an auto wound, and it counted as an unmodified 6, and it only gave you the extra 2 AP, which pre Armor of Contempt was really, really strong.
And post Armor of Contempt, for anything that's not Space Marines, it was still very, very strong.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But that becomes a matchup question more so than anything. And if we're being completely honest, Xenos are very left out of those kind of buffs. But Hail of Doom, to me, that's not a broke. It's a strong mechanic, yes, but broken, definitely not. The Judgment Token thing, where you could start stacking up, and it's no longer just a 6 that triggers it; it's a 5 or a 4. A 4 to hit can trigger it. That's where it gets, And but in saying that, I also think that, and we've spoken about now the previous 2 weeks of what Zach or I would do to fix squats, and that would be to actually make them not auto wound, but have a wound roll where then that's what's kind of buff. So if you roll your 4, 5, or 6 to wound, then yes, it counts as a 6. Especially when you come to squats, there's not a lot of stuff that's going to be winning on 2s unless you're the kind of guy that's sending a heavy Magna Rail into, I don't know, Guardians.
See, that's the thing, Cal. You are that guy.
Well, yes, and look, it's not a terrible idea because, with spill damage, that would start to kind of evaporate Guardians.
Look, I watched
that would win on 2s.
I watched the Warhammer Plus, the 3 battle reports they did up with squads, and with the battle reports they put on Warhammer Plus, they're just trying to have a bit of fun. They're not really trying to come up with the most broken thing to just obliterate their opponent with. They're just trying to have a bit of fun. And the squat's still just obliterated.
Yes. And let's be honest now, my 2 takeaways from the Warhammer Plus games were, 1, it was not a competitive setting. And not a competitive list. They weren't playing to take a prize kind of deal.
No, neither of the 4 lists, 6 lists, I should say, that appeared in those 3 videos were optimized to be super killer.
Yeah. And 2, some of those rolls were actually terrible.
Yes.
There was a lot of stuff in there where, it should do a minimum of something, and it's just nothing. We saw a lot of 1s and 2s in those videos.
Yes, and yet the squat still just kind of steamrolled.
Yeah.
Everything.
Everything.
Like, if you obliterate your opponent when you're not even trying, is that not a sign that it is seriously broken?
Yeah, no, it's pretty bad. And to be fair, a lot of these things, like the Ironheart champion, or Ian, one of the two, however it's pronounced, the champion, in a single melee combat fight phase, it has the potential to one-shot a knight from full wound. That's pretty heavy. That's one character with, I think it's only 4 or 6 attacks, one of the 2.
That's pretty mental.
That is horrible. But that's not even one of those. I wouldn't even really call that broken. It's stupidly strong, yes, but it's literally one tiny little fellow that moves 5 inches. Not the tankiest boy out there. No other real kind of amazing things about it. It's good, yes.
He's a character though, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. So you just surround him with stuff and he can't be touched.
Yeah, but we have a lot of things that's ignoring lookout so these days, like rangers, for example.
I suppose.
Like Vindicator assassins. They well
Look,
Vindicare, they exist.
Vindicare assassins are not good. Every time I
Actually,
take one, they fail to do squat. Mainly because I'm bad at rolling dice. But
this is like Zach. All he needs is a 2, and so he always gets that 1.
it's like I should seriously consider taking Ospec Tactics advice and just rolling 6s. Problem solved.
Speaking of rolling 6s,
Oh God, what have you done?
no, it's not me. I was congratulating you on it finally happening. You the Trader Guard, an
Oh
official unit for
yes.
40k.
Oh look, I'm seriously considering getting a squad of 2 of them to throw with my Iron Warriors, mainly because free special weapons.
Yes,
You pay an extra 10
and
points over cultists,
decent special weapons.
but you get decent special weapons, like a free
Mhm.
plasma gun. It's too bad that you can't take more than one of the same special weapon.
Yep,
But for my loadout, it'd
but
probably
you can still change 3 of them.
Plasma gun, obviously.
Obviously,
Probably the sniper rifle.
the sniper's
That
pretty
could
good.
be
Well, it's the exact same rules as what's on a elf
yeah.
ranger, and those things do well.
Well, elf rangers have the advantage of all of them have it.
Yeah, but I
Whereas
still
this
only
is you
take
take
5 at a
one.
time.
You take one.
A single one.
So I mean, it'd be handy. Keep in mind, it's on like a 5-point model, so
Exactly.
or 6-point model. So I mean,
For free.
it's free. And then for the last one, it'd probably have to be a toss up between either a flamer or a melter.
I would look honestly. The way that I'd play them is they would just replace cultists for me and sit on a home objective. So I'd probably throw a flamer onto it
Yeah,
because
just
if they get charged, at least you're
got
hitting something.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. Although I play cultists very aggressively. It's really
A
funny.
little too aggressively.
The way that I
sometimes.
look, we don't talk about the cultists versus custodes game. We don't talk about that.
The gentleman that took what was it 130,
180 cultists in that game.
against custodes, and then says, "Hey, let's play kill points."
That was so dumb. But funny. It was very funny. I thoroughly enjoyed that. No, I usually put the cultist in front of my tanks and infantry.
Yep.
Because I'm playing Iron Warriors, use the strat so that you then can't target my infantry as long as the cultists are there.
And then there's another strat where if there are flanks, you can bring D3 of them back.
Yes, which is so much fun.
It is.
At the moment, I'm actually considering dropping the siege shields from my Vindicators. Because I'm finding that the Vindicators just are not being targeted. I'm able to apply enough threat saturation, put enough other stuff in front that it's not until turn 3 or 4 that you actually get to target them, and at that point it's too late.
Yeah.
Because turn 1, you've got cultists in front of them in my infantry, and then you've also got a squad of warp talons, and usually a khorne demon prince with wings flying towards you stupid fast.
Stupid fast.
If you don't deal with that, you are about to have a bad time.
Demon princes have been really good in this codex.
And then on top of that, turn 2, I usually start dropping demons on you.
Yeah.
Mainly for the lols. It's like turn 2, you'll have a squad of bloodletters and a bloodmaster, as well as a squad of demonettes and a mask of Slanesh right in front of you. And if the MOP, Master of Possession, is up there and I've given him Mark of Slanesh, those Slanesh demons are now now just outside of 6 inches from you, so they're probably making that charge. And with the Mask of Slanesh, if she makes it in, it's +1 to wound off the top of my head.
Yes.
Yeah.
But here's the other cool thing, and if you really wanted to cheese it, so
Oh,
dropping your
plus
mask.
re-rolling either ones to hit or no, it was +1 to hit. So I'm
Yeah.
hitting on 2s, and I am +1 to wound.
Yes. So
Or was it
but
re-rolling ones? It's something to do with wounds. The
it's
point
something to
is,
do with wounds.
when you've got 40 attacks with the demonettes.
And here's the cool thing. So I've been watching a lot of meta plays recently, and they're all doing this. They've got a cheese move with the Master of Possession. So because we're bringing things in, you and the Master of Possession can then basically can sacrifice a couple of things to get +1 for a psychic test.
Yes.
If you take that +1, kill off something that's say Terminator, and this was the example in Blog for the Blood God. Deep strike them first turn with Night Lords.
Oh yeah, there's some stupid shit you can do with Chaos Terminators.
Bring them in 9. Use the Master of Possessions to kill one, and then with the same power, bring it back. But there's no minimum or maximum that it has to be far away from you. It just can't be an engagement range. So you're then putting it at the front in cohesion, 2 inches. You now have from that deep strike a 7-inch charge.
No. You have a 5-inch charge.
Cohesion.
You start 9 inches away.
Yeah, you got to be 9 out.
Yep. You kill one. You kill one at the back off. It's a 40 mil base.
Yep.
So
and then
you have 2 inches between it and 2 units. So you've now so up to the back of its base, you're at 7 inches, and then because it's a 40 mil base, it's 1 and like 1.4 inches, which means now that's a 5-inch charge. Oh, I didn't think of that. That's fucked.
Yep. And so a list that I put together for my Night Lords, because there's a local stuff coming up, that if I can, I'm going to be joining and doing this. I am a firm believer in Dreadcore drop pods.
Oh god, I see where this is going.
Another thing that can T1 deep strike, but in my drop pods, I'm fairly akin to putting in 3 obliterators and a Master of Possession. So
obliterators and Master of Possession is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, especially when if I can drop them down, and then it's not a normal drop pod because Dreadclaws can move 12 inches or 10. It's one of the two. I think it's 12.
They move and they burn everything underneath them as they move.
And they're quite choppy. Yes. Like they can do some stuff.
They have some big claws.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be the mouth that's underneath it, but
yeah, it's fine.
But yeah, instantly having 1, 2, 3, 4 units 9 inches away, something that I can then get 5 inches away, charge, and Night Lords being Night Lords, they have some great strats. So obviously turn 1 deep striking. But second, they can lock you in combat. So if somebody's screened out with some fodder stuff, and you're, instead of them being able to pull back, you're going to lock them in combat. They're going to disappear because you'll fight first. If they don't disappear already, go into something else, lock them. They're going to have a turn where you're fighting first in their turn then, if you're activating, and then you're going into your charge phase for your turn 2. They're just starting to really break through some big lines and get to stuff that's supposed to be hidden pretty well. And that's horrible.
So basically what you're saying is going to happen is that if you play against my Iron Warriors with that, you're going to lock up some cultists in close combat.
No, I'll delete those and then consolidate into something.
You'll try. And then come my turn, I am going to bombard you with demolisher cannons.
It really depends. Depends on deployment, what's where and where I can get. But look, there's a good chance that would happen.
Look, I just love that I can fire demolisher cannons in close combat.
It's so good. But see, Terminators, like, so I take Terminators with the Mark of Zinch. So obviously the first one is 0.
I'm just gonna put some bolters into you first.
Oh, of course. But I also put the black rune on them, so they're -1. Yeah, -1 wound.
I have ways around that.
Most people should, but it's just it's a gross combo and a nice way in. Like it's it's pretty devastating first turn, and when you're talking block of 10, that's 30 wounds.
Oh yeah, Chaos Terminators are, if you set them off right, they're stupid hard to shift.
Yeah.
Throw a
And
Master of Possession in there to resurrect one here and there.
Exactly.
Just,
yep.
And on top of that, even if you're against like a heavy psychic defending army, like say you're up against Grey Knights, they're still going to have a hard time denying you because the Master of Possession gets +2 to his what's it called discipline powers.
Yeah. The Malefics or
Yeah, that's the one. The Malefic discipline. So I mean, warp charge of I think it's 6 or 7 to resurrect stuff. Off the top of my head,
Yeah.
or was it 5?
Sure.
One of them.
It's 5 now.
Well, look, it's either 4 or 5 now.
Yeah. And that's not even including the Venom Crawler if you take one for another +1.
Yeah, if you just want to be silly.
Like if you want to guarantee this is going off with Perilsing with a +1, it's like doable.
The last 2 games I've played with it, one against Blood Angels and Imperial Fists, and the other was a 3-player free-for-all with bloody Thousand Suns and Blood Angels. They tried to deny my Master of Possession from resurrecting shit. Couldn't do it. Because like I'll roll do the thing, and one of them I rolled a +6 in perils, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna cop that because that's cast on a 14. Good luck denying that. and I just turned to Chris and was like, bet you wish you had some Khorne demons on the table right now.
Oh, I really, really do enjoy that.
Oh, look, it's so good, especially against psychic heavy armies like Thousand Suns, which in our local meta, I have to fight a lot. Because it means I've got my deny from the Master of Possession, because in my Iron Warriors, I only really take him as the only psyker. I haven't found that I've really needed more. I mean, I'm not going to out-psychic Thousand Suns. Any other situations, I don't really need more denies than that, especially given that all I have to do is throw Mark of Khorne on one unit, and then I've got a 4+ deny, which I can stack with the Master of Possession's deny if I need to.
Yeah.
On them, and then I get another one from the Bloodletters and Bloodmaster that I take from my Demon's detachment, and both of them are just on a 4+. It's like, oh, you rolled a +6. You're going to take a perils just because you don't want me to deny it.
4.
Oh, look, that's denied. Whoops.
Enjoy your perils.
Enjoy your perils, peasant.
But it's there's just some really good stuff. And so this is kind of what we were talking about before we actually rolled the show, was with all the codexes and the power creeps and everything else you want to talk about, rules bloat and all that kind of thing, and FAQs and nerfs from being incredibly overpowered. Chaos and Chaos Demons, 2 very good books that are very balanced. They did a really, really good job with both of those books.
Look, they are perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
And even as we're talking about that MetaWatch article where they're saying they try to keep things around the 50% win mark. Obviously, there's a grace kind of 5% either way, because sometimes it could just be better players with them. It could be lucky rolls if there's a shorter amount of people that are playing them, those kind of things. But Demons fall right into 54% win rate. Like that's fine. That means With a 54% win rate, I think last week they came first place in 3 events, which not terrible. And we're talking big overseas stuff now. But that's good. That just means that they're a good army, a good player can make them great, but it's not like raw squats where they're kind of coming out and a brand new player that doesn't know how to play can't really. They don't even have to have the dice gods on their side. It just has to be an average roll, and they've demolished you.
Or even a bad roll with squats and you still demolish.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. With their named character, the Destined, if he can change anything to a 6, one time, of course. But here's the thing: with how the rule worked, the heavy Magna Rail. So there was actually a battle report Zach and I were talking about where the heavy Magna Rail, he rolled a 1. He
Changed
then
it to a 6.
changed it to a 6, which counts as an unmodified 6, which then it's
so dumb.
2d3 plus 6 damage spilling over. So one failed hit roll killed, what was it, 13 boys.
Wasn't that what happened? Wasn't that in the Warhammer Plus battle report against the Orcs?
I think it was, yes.
Yeah, because that's what happened there.
That's what we were talking about.
Just after I watched it, I was I was in the group chat. She's like, "What the fuck is wrong with this?
And
how can?"
And the way that we know,
and still killed what the hell?
But and here's the thing, like I'm assuming that was a 20 unit size.
Yeah.
If there is a strat in there which turns the 6s into mortals as well, and they do additional mortals for every unmodified 6, that could have easily taken out the entire unit with a missed hit and 1 CP.
See, I don't see how, with the facts as it is, anyone, and I think Zach is just plain wrong about this, but I don't see how anyone can reasonably defend that, even after the nerf, where it's like a unmodified 6 to hit just wounds, it doesn't, with the judgment tokens, it doesn't count as an unmodified 6. Even with that, it's still stupid powerful.
Well, see, that's where. So with that combination specifically, without the unmodified 6, the damage does not spill anymore. That only happens on a 6.
Okay,
so 2d3 plus 6 wounds onto one thing.
Well, then maybe don't go shooting your big tank killy thing into boys. So that's not really a this unit's now shit thing. It's a this unit is still very powerful. But
what it was supposed to do originally.
It's kind of back in line with everything else in the game.
Yeah. So, and you got to remember that thing is strength 9. I'm pretty sure 9 or 10, something like that. But so the damage
spill when you're strength 9, that's so broken. It's not funny.
So I think what they were thinking about, or what they were half planning on that, was against stuff like Orcs and Harlequin. So Harlequin to take out the Void Weavers that can be taken in units of 3, buggies that are taken in units of 3, not 9 anymore. But see, at strength 9, it would have been wounding on 3s. Well, that doesn't matter because it's auto wounding. But 2d3 plus 6, even say you roll everything very well, you're getting 12. That's 2 Void Weavers gone.
And look, I mean,
and then you can throw on the mortals to take out the other Void Weaver.
Yeah, so that's still stupid powerful.
Yeah.
But I mean, you still have the option to just, if you roll a 1 and you have judgment tokens on it, you're hitting on a 3, and it's like, you know, I do want to roll that wound roll because I'm going to at least wound on a 2. So, give me yourself a chance of getting that 6. Just change it to a 3. You
see,
still hit. You then get to roll the wound, and like a sixth of the time, you're going to get the damage spill.
Well,
Still,
see, a cool thing with that is, well, not a cool thing, but one of the proposed reasoning that this was a terrible idea was because now, if you're auto wounding, obviously you don't get the opportunity to roll for your
Yep.
wounds.
That's
Now,
fine.
there's also the way that judgment tokens, the mechanic works is you can hand them out and that's fine. But if a unit is doing an action or if they're on an objective, they get one. So now people are saying, oh, if you're playing Harlequins, just make sure that you've put your vehicles on objectives, and then you're not going to be able to get that unmodified 6 ever. Which is,
Not true.
don't get me wrong, it's not a bad counterplay idea, because you're giving yourself tokens, which means this thing, it's not going to go off auto. And you're not going to get the opportunity. But in saying that, it's also, you're getting one token where that's only a 6. So a 6 to hit and a 6 to wound. How often does that come up with something that's heavy 1?
I mean, if you're building a strategy around trying to give yourself judgment tokens so that they don't get the unmodified 6 so the damage doesn't spill, I don't think that will pay off as much, because, I
Nope.
mean, even if you were to not try and get the damage tokens, so at least this way they're not, you know, they're not going to auto wound you just from hitting. Even if they just go through and then they roll, they're only going to get a sixth of the time anyway. So, I mean, it's not really something you really need to worry about that much now that the mechanic has been brought back in line with what every other army in the game has to deal with. I mean, look, I'd say it's a bad example, but Necrons are one of the top 3 armies at the moment for some reason, mainly because they all got core, just everything. But there's 2 strats that I considered stacking at one point, but then decided not to for this exact reason. Because when I was playing Necrons heaps, I'd always run them in Mephrit, and I'd love taking death marks because Zach took lots of characters and picking them off is a lot of fun. But there's a strat in Mephrit that lets you have your 6s to wound cause an additional mortal wound. Stack that with the mortal wound you get from a 6 to wound with the death marks already, and you're dealing 2 mortal wounds for every 6 to wound. When you got a squad of 10 of them hitting on 2s, you're going to get 1 or 2 6s to wound. So you're looking at 2 to 4 mortal wounds plus whatever damage goes through. Most characters, outside of like some Primaris Terminator, Captain, Lieutenant 6000, or whatever they're calling the shiny blue boys now, it's going to kill them, or at least get them very close to dead. But there's another strat in the Necron Codex that means that an unmodified hit roll of a 6 automatically wounds. But it doesn't count as an unmodified 6.
No.
So you're not going to want to use that in that situation. And it's just like, why should squats get the same rule, but it counts as an unmodified 6? I don't think that any rule that gives you 6 to hit auto wounds should ever count as an unmodified 6.
Well, see, here's the thing. Squats in general have just taken the best rule from everybody and put it all together.
That's true.
They've taken Armor of Contempt and the Iron Warriors trait of, you can't re-roll the wounds, plus now you can't re-roll the damage.
Like we said before the show rolled, the damage doesn't really matter that much because there's not that many things that re-roll damage anyway.
It might be a single clutch situation where that comes into play.
Specific situations, but generally speaking, you probably don't want to be you don't want to be spending points on something like that.
Yeah. And then a Medipack is 5 points for basically Marcus Inch.
Marcus Inch is 15 points.
Exactly.
So that's already, at the very least, not priced correctly.
Yeah, and that goes on, of course, troops, but it also gives you access to strat to return D3 lost models.
So it's better than Mark of Zinch.
Exactly. That's what we were saying. Everything is just better.
Yeah, they just took the rules from all the other books and just made them
Made it
better.
better. Yeah, a lot of things, depending on your league, of course, counts as 2 or more models when you're OBSEC.
Yeah, I genuinely think that James Workshop was spot on in his statement that when you buy the Leagues of Votann army set, they'll just send you a first place tournament trophy.
Actually, I think that Zach was pretty right when we were talking about what happened with the SWATs Codex. Of being, they've written all these books for so long, and there's been cool bits and pieces as they go.
And
We had a
yes,
sweet spot with Chaos Space Marines and Demons, that they were internally balanced as well as balanced together. But when you start to find, oh, this is pretty good, this works, this is pretty good, this works, this is pretty good, this works, and you put it all together, that then turns into, this is guaranteed to work because it's very good.
Yep.
And I think that's honestly probably what's happened here. Especially, I don't know who wrote the rules from the team that was involved with it. But if you've been playing for as long
Matt
as
Ward.
a
It was Matt
lot of
Ward, and we
us,
all know it.
if you've been playing for as long as we know that previous to this, every year people have been commenting constantly, bring squats back, bring squats back. It's become this huge kind of mythos that's got the fan base of people that have never actually played the original squats. I've been playing this game so long that
You
I
remember
still haven't.
squats.
But I never played them or played against them. But I remember seeing the original models back in the day, from people that had been playing. The people that taught me how to play, they had squat armies before they were completely just kind of squished out.
Squatted.
Exactly. So we also going to have to remember that if that was their idea of writing the codex, adding good things that they know work, plus that little bit of excitement of they finally get squats back. Like, even though they're saying it's not squats, it's basically squats. We all know that space dwarves are squats.
It's squats.
You did it 30 years ago. People remember it's squats. Just because these things have no beards or have heads that look like Master Roshi, they are still squats.
Look, just Cal, when you inevitably get them, just paint beards on all of them.
So, but that's the thing. Like, I have nostalgically, yeah, it's kind of cool that they're back. But my big thing is I've never been into them, aesthetics wise, laws wise, anything like I've done a couple of conversions, especially back in the day when we had some really cool dwarves in fantasy, where I'd throw spare Space Marine shoulder pads on and give them bolters and stuff like that. I have no interest other than me wanting to try out a new army.
Then you wanting to play broken shit.
No, I just like stupid things, and that book was so stupid when it came out raw, when it was leaked raw. But it was a guaranteed win. Like, when I played against Reese, he took 2,000 points. He hid everything because he's a castler.
He is very much a castler, and it's very easy to use that to your advantage.
Yeah, especially when you know it's coming. But I got shots off with 3 land fortresses and 2 units of 3 bikes. That's it. Actually, sorry, no. At the end of turn 2, I did get a couple of shots off with one of the infantry units. But that was it. So it took me at the time 1,000 points of just bikes and trucks to basically table him in 2 turns. Like, these things were just gone, and they were hiding. First turn, I was pretty far away. I could only see like 1, maybe 2 things. I think it was 2 things by the end of it. They got gone. he got a turn where he bought some stuff out, but still left a lot of stuff behind. And all I had to do was reposition one thing, and bang, off it went. Things were gone.
Yeah.
And then that was it. That's how you know it was overpowered. I still think that judgment tokens were like the mechanic was nerfed incorrectly.
See, I
Because
disagree with you on that.
no, and here's my reasoning. So the only thing that people were looking at with the unmodified 6 thing is it takes away a lot of the massive combos. And don't get me wrong, they were huge, they were gross. But if you've seen this show before and you've heard us talking about the shuriken list,
oh yeah,
I can make a bolter shuriken list with dwarves that hand out judgment tokens everywhere and pump out 273 shots.
just so broken.
But here's the thing, 273 shots, mostly 2 damage. Actually, no, sorry, mostly 1 damage, but a few things that are 2 damage and plus. And beams, like those things are ridiculous. But I can hand out enough judgment tokens every turn to stack. So I can get three judgment tokens on 3 units and then 1 on another one every turn, and then just be deleting those units on 4s to hit. Mm-hmm. They're gone. Auto wounding on 4s to hit from 273 shots. That's where the mechanic wasn't quite done properly, because people were just looking at the big combos. What they should have done was, yes, all that stuff can apply. That's cool. Unmodified 6s. It lets you trigger off some pretty cool things, but apply it to an actual wound roll. When there's another wall of you have to have a successful hit, then you take your successful hits and then have to roll successfully to wound. That's what would start to even out the judgment token mechanic.
Wait, I'm not. I don't think I'm getting what you're saying, because it sounds like you're saying change it from an unmodified 6 to auto wounds to an unmodified 6 to wound auto. What?
No. So if you roll hits like normal, okay, and then judgment tokens add to the wound roll. So if you've got 3 judgment tokens currently, it's your 4 to hit is auto wound. But if we made it that if you have 3 judgment tokens and then 4, 5, and 6 on a wound roll, then becomes an unmodified 6. You still get to use all the other combos, but there's then 2 walls. It has to be a successful wound and from a successful hit.
I'm not following. I'm super confused.
Okay, so with the current setup,
so at the moment it's if you had 2 judgment tokens, 5 plus, yes, auto wounds counts as before the nerf counted as a 6.
Yep, it'll be easy to think about it raw. So yes, unmodified 6.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So instead of having the judgment tokens play on the hit roll where you get auto wounds, take out the auto wound thing. And then move the judgment token buffs to the wound roll. So you have to roll to hit normally.
Okay.
And then if you have 3 judgment tokens on a wound roll of 4 can count as an unmodified 6.
So it makes your wound rolls count as an unmodified 6.
Yes, but you still have to have a success, and this is already a part of the mechanic. It has to be a successful hit. So you might be able to wound you might be able to hit something. Say your ballistic skill it's not, but say it's 4, for example, and then if something has a -1, you can still only trigger it on 5s, exactly 5s and 6s, and that's current. So even if you get a 4, it still doesn't go up because it has to be a successful hit. Whereas if you change that then to make it a successful wound, so toughness then comes into play, toughness and strength. I think that would have done a lot better job of clearing it up instead of just taking away the unmodified 6s, because you would have gotten away from bolter spam, beamer spam, all those kind of things. And you wouldn't have
Perhaps.
invalidated half of the codex with the special rules.
I disagree that it's invalid half the codex with the special rules. It's just made them so that they're not overpowered.
Yeah, but it's
made them so they don't automatically go off, and it's so that you're not. I think it's supposed to discourage you from spamming judgment tokens.
which
I think that was
is
the goal with it.
the hard part
Because
there is you automatically spam tokens. It's not even your fault. Like if they're doing an action, they get a token. If they're on an objective, they get a token. If they kill a unit, they get a token. It's things out of your control. Like for them turning up to play the game, they get tokens. I do agree that the token spam could also be an issue, but I still think if you put a successful hit and a successful wound roll, so you've got those extra walls of actually rolling dice, that would have cleared up a lot of issues.
I had to change the rule on it to try to bring it back in line with the other codexes, the only thing that I would do is I would make it so that you just can't, so that there's a hard cap on the number of judgment tokens you can hand out a turn.
Yeah.
Like just give it a hard cap of 2 or 3.
So, but that then that makes it hard again, because if say we're playing 2,000 points and there's 5 to 6 objective markers out there. One's in home, 2 is just out of your just out of your opponent's deployment. They run up to them, 1, 2, 3 for the next turn. That's done.
Make it that the controlling player chooses whether or not they go on them.
Yeah, well, that's kind of already a thing. But if you can start to control if your opponent can start to control where the judgment tokens go on theirs.
No, I don't think I'm explaining this properly. I'm not saying that you just put a hard cap of 3. I know I did technically say that sentence, but I'm now clarifying what I meant. You make it so that you can't hand out more than say 3 or whatever number you settle on. It doesn't matter. You settle on a hard number. That's the maximum you can deal out. And then you make it so that each time a spot where 1 would be dealt out, the player controlling the spots can choose whether to deal it out or not.
See, I would almost prefer it if they took it off, and the entire codex would probably need a rewrite for this. Well, not the entire, but the special characters and warlord traits and stuff. Make it a little bit more like fate dice, laughing dice, all those kind of mechanics where you've got to roll at the beginning of each turn to see how many judgment tokens you have to play with and where they can go. So say for example you roll 6d6, 4 is 1 judgment token, a 5 is 2 judgment tokens, a 6 is obviously 3 judgment tokens. Roll that, whatever numbers kind of correspond, that's what you can then put on a single unit, kind of like fate dice, where you have to roll to see what you can do, what you get, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah, it kind of makes it a bit like Warp Storm as well. Like you don't get to then pick your powers, but it takes out, and that's the thing that's really, really, it's too powerful in 40k, something like this. Having something that guarantees something, that is
look,
very powerful.
The whole point of 40k is having dice mechanics is that nothing's guaranteed.
Exactly. Yep.
Another way that that just popped into my head, and I have no idea if this will actually make sense once I say it out loud. But what if you made it so that when you put the token on, each token can only be applied to 1 roll?
Yeah.
So, like, say you put 3 tokens on, you can either stack them together, and at the same time, remove limits on how many tokens you can put on a unit. You could put 100 on the unit if you manage to find a way to do it. But
so treat it kind of like stacking marker lights.
Yeah. So
once you use them, they're gone.
No. Not once you use them, they're gone. I'm okay with them staying there under this scenario. But say you made 10 shots and you had
Yep.
3 tokens on the target. You can either put
You
all of them
use
together.
3 of them.
You can
Yeah,
either use all 3 of them and make one of the 4s auto wound as a 6, or you
that's
can
not bad.
use them each individually. And say you rolled 3 6s, make it that each of those 6s now counts as an unmodified 6. But you have to decide how you're grouping them before you roll.
That's not bad. I don't mind that. See,
They stay there forever, so you can keep using them over and over again.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
for that particular attack, you can only use each one once.
This one will count as this. This will count as that.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, yeah. The other thing that Zach and I were talking about the other night, he wasn't opposed to the idea, but of course he wasn't a giant fan of it. I think that dice mechanics should be taken off of things like Strands of Fate and the Luck of the Laughing Gods, the Sisters one, all of them should take them off of armies in particular, take them out of codexes and put them into the mission packs where you can spend CP pre-game while list building to pick your mechanic.
That could be interesting.
That I reckon that could be really cool because, like, take Fate dice for example. Fairly universal, could be used for just about any army out there because you're only rolling the dice to see what you get as your 6 to kind of change, and you have to, just like Fate dice, you have to use that before you declare that you're using it before you actually roll, that kind of thing. But take something like that and put it onto your Iron Warriors, or take Judgment tokens, for example, and put it on Eldar.
No, thank you.
Oh, wait to see the Shuriken list come out then.
Oh, look, on the bright side, James will sell a lot of Guardians.
A lot of Guardians and Wind Riders will be out of stock for years until the new book comes out. But see, something like that would be really cool, especially for the armies that don't have dice mechanics. Say like your Tyranids. I know Reese would probably enjoy something like that.
Need GP, please nerf.
Tau, that would be pretty strong for Tau. But even stuff that's on the lower performing side, like Orcs, they'd bring it up fairly well. But you could also then start talking about doing the same thing for, say, Necron protocols. If you have to pay a CP in list building for it, or you could take Fate dice or Judgment tokens, those kind of things. I think that could really add. Well, look, if it happens now, this has already gone live. Like in 30 seconds, this will be out to the world. If that happens in a book, I will expect a royalties cut.
What if it's in the next book that was printed 6 months ago?
Nope, doesn't count. Wasn't released. Still
want royalties. Anyway, we're starting to run down on time. Let's talk about this Metal Watch article real quick before we wrap up. Warhammer community posted up in their Age of Sigmar section a Meta Watch article about how they use tournament data to balance the game. Having looked through this article, I think it's a better approach than I was expecting, but I still see some pretty serious flaws in this approach.
Yeah, I can say one massive flaw. Casual play.
Not actually casual play that I was thinking of.
Yeah.
But I will get to that. I will just share it so that those playing along at home can see it. So here's the article. Where is it? So first thing I was looking for when I read through this was, how big is this data set? Because if it's not a big data set, then invalid, not interested.
Yeah. Kind of like Meta Watch Meta Mondays, the Reddit post. Very invalid, because you'll also say one of them takes into account community votes.
Yeah, no, not valid.
That doesn't get a say in this.
But look, 1,700 events, 4,000 games a month. That's a decent sample size. So at least, you know,
Great
the
sample size.
random chance. I still reckon for some particular lesser played armies, you could have issues with sampling errors there, where there's just not enough and luck caused them to swing one way or the other.
You got to
Uh,
remember that playing along with this at home, on when the meta lists do come out, especially through the app, you still have to look at, so Gene Stealer Cult technically have a 59% win rate, even though there was only 2 games that was taken into account for that. That
yeah,
doesn't count. That's not it.
that's a sampling error right there.
Yeah.
That's to extrapolate that out to the game as a whole to say, oh, Gene Stealer Cult's OP, please nerf.
Yeah.
That's fallacious reasoning.
Yes.
But look, as a whole, 4,000 games a month, I'm fine with that. I don't see an issue there outside of some niche armies.
Especially since it's actually ranked and everything is kept track of properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big issue that I see here, which now you mentioned casual play, yeah, I suppose. But if you're playing casual play, up in balance isn't the biggest problem. If you're playing casually, you can solve those problems by saying, oh, this army's at a disadvantage, have a 200-point handicap. In casual settings, you can do that sort of thing.
Casual, not stupid.
You know, you're playing against squats, so you get 4,000 points versus their 1,000 points. That seems
We have
fair.
actually we've set a game up for that between me, Reese, and Zach.
Oh, good lord. No, the big issue I see is that because it's only looking at tournament data, you're
Yes.
only going to be looking at the best of the best for the books themselves. And a book that is, you can have an army that lands in the 45 to 55% win rate range, but only because it has one build that works and everything else is rubbish. And because
Yes.
it's in that range, the rubbish stuff won't get buffed and the overpowered stuff won't get bought in.
Yeah.
Whereas you could have an army that is internally very well balanced and there's lots of different ways you can run it. And
And
it then
you're
gets
right. Yeah.
it
Like
then has 1 or 2 units get seriously nerfed because it's winning 60% of its games, and now you've destroyed the internal balance of it.
yeah. And the best example of that is probably Harlequins. So Harlequins playing in the light Satyth, that's what's going into all of these competitive games. And that's because, you know, they're hanging back, they're giving out the penalty for shooting over 18 inches. They're taking Void Weavers everywhere. But if you start to nerf the units, then it is the other Satyths that start to suffer. So Dirty D, Dark Deeds. Darks have already copped it fairly badly, where it's not quite. It's playable compared, not casually. Competitive, you've got no chance. But yeah, you're right. You start, especially when you start talking about a book like Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines. You start knocking down units, given with all the different Legion traits. That's where an issue could then arise.
Yeah, because I mean, the Chaos Space Marines book on launch, it's extremely well balanced internally, and I guess we were just lucky that the whole book as a whole wasn't overpowered. Because all it's going to take is you can have it very well balanced internally, but if you have, you know, 1 or 2 units, it's just a tiny little bit better than everything else, then all of your top tournament lists start taking goes. Next thing, all those units get nerfed into oblivion.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, we saw the same sort of thing when NIDS came out.
The
Maliceptor in, was it Leviathan?
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, that thing was absolutely broken, but only if it was in Leviathan.
Well, see, here's the thing. Leviathan was brought out as in a White Dwarf before the Codex. Now there was a lot of argument beforehand that, because generally once a codex actually comes out, the previous rule sets are kind of pushed away.
Yeah.
Just like all the Psychic Awakening books, and they were kind of extras that came into play. But new books came, like the new core codex comes out, and they're no longer valid. I remember a lot of arguments about whether Leviathan was actually valid anymore, and there was a few tournaments that said no. And I still actually haven't heard anything of GW commenting on it, but it has popped up in an FAQ, so I'm assuming that lives.
Well, if they've FAQ'd the Leviathan supplement
Then it's still
since then,
there.
then I'd say it is. But correct me if I'm wrong, but Leviathan, there's actually rules for Leviathan in the NIDS Codex, isn't there?
Yes, I think so. No, I'm not sure. Again, I don't have or play NIDS.
We'll have to check with Reese on that one. Because
This is where Zach would have been handy.
Come on, Zach, you're dogging the boys.
He's playing to Warhammer 3.
He is, and everyone knows it because it popped up on my primary display that he was playing that. But the way I see it, and obviously the fact that they've FAQ'd it since the release would seem to suggest that they see it differently. But if there's rules for Leviathan in the Codex, which came out after that supplement's invalid.
Yeah.
It's superseded. Simple as that.
It should be, yeah.
If they didn't put Leviathan rules in the Codex, then I would say, no, those are still good to be used.
So unless it's a new precedent, because there's also the Elder one that was brought out before the Elf book dropped. And that, I'll have to double check. I don't think they're in the Codex, but it's still valid as far as Battle Scribe's concerned.
Yeah, fair.
But again, if the Leviathan's left in.
Reese finally responded to my question. Because I asked him earlier on when we were discussing squats in the Shuriken list, how Reese felt about it, being a Xenos player with no Armor of Contempt. He's just said, in general, not a huge fan. Not as bad as squats, though.
I don't know about that now. To be completely honest, here's the thing. I think so. Elves, I can push a lot more shots into, and when I say a lot more, like on 100 more shots.
That is a lot more.
That is a lot more. Triggering of unmodified 6s to hit are wound and treated as unmodified 6s. 6s to hit, sorry, are treated as unmodified to
Look,
wounds.
I think with that, I think the big bit that we're missing there is that an unmodified wound roll of a 6 with the Shuriken list is just not as gross as it is with squats.
No, it's only give you an extra 2 AP. But against something like NIDS, that is instantly disappeared most times.
Well, I mean,
it's only the big stuff gets an invuln. Sometimes they can flick out a feel no pain.
Yeah,
but
the small
generally
stuff only
it's
had a
going
6-up armor save anyway.
Yeah, it's gone.
And against Armor of Contempt armies.
I guess
no, you've got AP -3. That will still be a 2+ save on my paladins with their -1+ save.
Yeah. It's stuff like that. And especially since Hail of Doom was considered so strong that you can only take Hail of Doom as a craft world attribute. You can't take 2 like you used to be able to.
I think that's fair, though. Hail of Doom is pretty strong.
It is pretty strong, but again, they changed that at the same time as they brought Armor of Contempt in. If they had let that run for another quarter, it wouldn't have been a big deal.
Suppose.
Like Swift Strikes, me getting that little bit of extra movement, that that did nothing to it except get me a little bit closer across the board.
I suppose. I still want to see you take the shuriken list to a tournament. And I'm not just saying that because I want you to go out and buy like 200 Guardians, because then I'll get a bigger dividend, like marginally bigger. But also, I really want to make you go out and buy 200 Guardians.
Well, it's not even the amount of Guardians, which, don't get me wrong, it's 100 Guardians.
It's a lot of Guardians.
There's 30. No, sorry, 27.
I'm just
27 Wind Riders.
I'm just gonna take Paladins.
But see, something like that would now also be great against demons. Like, the AP means nothing, but
the AP weight means nothing against most things anyway now.
Yeah, but the pure weight of dice. Yeah, but the demons aren't getting a 2+ save. That's the difference. They're sticking with their 4s and 5s.
And 3s. I mean, Zinch demons, lots of them have 3s at ranged.
See, I'd still rather pick off something at 3 instead of a 2.
True.
That's but yeah, no, look, it's a really, really heavy, financially heavy list.
Yeah.
Because we're talking, what's that? 100. So that's 10. Yeah, 10 boxes of Guardians. There is then, what do we got in each? 9. They come in 3. So yeah, 9 boxes of Wind Riders. That is another 4 boxes of what are they called? Dire Avengers.
Oh gee. Wow, that Guardian kit is more expensive than I was expecting it to be.
$98. Yep.
No, just 90. Just 90.
Just 90.
Just
$90.
Look again, across the 10 boxes that you need, you're saving $80.
Here's a question. So we play this quite often, like with point costs. So a single Guardian. Actually, no, we'll play like Trader Guard, for example. So we're talking about 5 points. So much. 5 points a model.
6 points a model.
6 points a model with free special weapons, all that kind of stuff.
Yep, free special weapons.
But 6 points per model, which means the unit of 10, 60 points. Is that worth it for that unit?
Yes.
Exactly. Now, I'm going to go out and assume Trader Guard is going to be around the $90 to $98 a box.
Probably. How much are they're not even going to be called guardsmen in there, are they? I'm going to have to go through the other thing to find out.
Actually, I think they're also in Kill Team.
It was a Kill Team box, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they just gave us a data sheet for 40k. For free.
I know, how generous of them. Look, maybe searching traitor as the keyword to search in here was not the best idea.
How many Dark Angels came up?
All
of them.
All of them. Lots of Horus Heresy stuff. All of it's Horus Heresy. Yeah, they're not actually coming up when I search on the website for them.
Okay,
well, I'm just going to go find out how much Guardsmen cost. Let's see, Astra Militarum. Cadian shock troops are $77 for a box of 10.
77. Okay, so for a box of 10, that makes them $7.70 each.
Yep.
If you went onto eBay, would you pay $70 or would you pay $7.70 for a single Guardsman?
On eBay?
Just
no.
Example. The points cost versus dollar costs argument is valid, I think. Keeper of Secrets, $230. It's 280 points. Or even if you want to build, Shalaxus out of that, it's 300 points. But $230.
I mean, that is better value points for dollars.
Points for dollars it is. But that's what I'm saying, like, especially when we look at like Guardians. Yeah, $90 for 10 of them. That's $9 per Guardian.
Look, to be honest, and this might just, being my white middle classness coming through.
give me my dividends, goddammit.
Yes, please give me my dividends. Please buy more James Workshop. But I don't really think about it in those sorts of terms.
Oh,
I
look,
think about it in the terms of how much entertainment am I going to get out of this thing compared to what I'm paying for it, compared to other things that I would like. Flick me a message any weekend and saying, "Hey, we're going go-karting, you in?" And I'll be like, yeah, where and when? And that's, $55 for half hour of entertainment.
Yeah. So like, I really
How
can't
much
comment on that.
entertainment do you get out of, just because it's very close in price, a box of Demonettes? How do you get half an hour or more of entertainment out of that?
This depends on your reasoning for entertainment. I just finished doing my 10-day
Okay, maybe Demonettes was not the right example. Let's
but
go
there
with
was no
Blood
enjoyment
Letters.
in there whatsoever.
What about Blood Letters? Let's go with that. Look, I enjoyed putting the Demonettes kit together. It was fine.
Well, so
It took me longer than half an hour though, so there's already my half hour of entertainment.
But say like the other thing is like we could put the entertainment value on something like Sharks just because I'm planning a big conversion for that. That's going to take me probably a couple of days to be quite frank.
And I'm sure you're going to thoroughly enjoy doing that conversion.
I will, because that's my favorite thing in the world. Which is also why I don't really think about the cost per model kind of deal.
Well, I mean, that's sort of why I don't look at it. I just don't look at it in that paradigm.
Yeah, and I'm a big kit basher. I have a lot of kits that I will never ever use the other stuff. I literally wanted one thing out of it.
See, I just buy the one bit off of eBay when I want to do that.
So I go looking for it, but it's a very specific bit that I'm generally after because I get something in mind and that's what I want to do. Like at the moment, I'm half tossing up whether buying the Craven King, just because I want the throne.
Fair.
But for what I'm doing, I don't think it's going to be the right throne, blah, blah, blah. I'm still most probably going to buy it just because I still like the throne and I'll find something to do with it.
Oh, look, speaking of individual pieces that are special, I just thought of a way to get you to buy the Guardians. I have to. I remember that Vegeta head that I modified to be and scaled to be printable for you.
And I still haven't put heads on any of my Eldar because of that.
I really should print those and send them to you, and I'll send you more than you need, so you have to go buy more Guardians.
Well, we're gonna need 100 if we're doing the list.
Look, they use all of like 1/10 of a cent of resin. They use like 1 mil. The bottles of resin are $36 for a half liter, and they use about 1 mil of resin each.
There's literally more waste in resin than what's actually being used for the heads.
No, I'm very good at supporting them so that there's minimal support waste.
Okay.
It's all about the angle you put them at. And when I was, cutting the head off of the Vegeta bust, scaling it, the way I cleaned up the cut and all of that, I did that so that it would use less resin. Yep, look, you're having an entire and I will expect them to be painted up like Dragon Ball Z characters.
Oh, I'm already waiting to get the Master Roshi head from the new Squats box.
Fun. Anyway, we will wrap up there as we are 20 minutes into overtime. Do all the things, press all of the buttons, just every button. Buttons on YouTube, buttons on Twitch, buttons on Facebook, buttons on your I was about to say wife or girlfriend, but then I remembered we're talking about Warhammer. Press all of the buttons on, I don't know, your parents. No, that sounded weird. I don't just if there's a button, press it. If it's a big red button and it says launch, definitely press it.
Do we go live to Korea and Russia?
I think we are, in fact, live in both Korea and Russia specifically.
This could be an issue.
Actually, is YouTube available in Russia? I'm fairly sure it's not available in
Ooh.
Korea.
Well, half of Korea.
Look, if you're currently working in a nuclear silo, then especially press any large red buttons you can see, because I want a plasma gun. Anyway,
And I would like to be an accursed cultist.
yes, Cal especially wants to be an accursed cultist. I am going to give one your beard and neck tattoos now.
Do
It's
it.
going to be hilarious. Anyway, we will see you all next time. Yeah, as always, there was an outro that I used to do when I actually made videos, when I had time to do that, and I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. So yeah, do all of the things, and we will see you next time.
1312.